Hello everybody and welcome back to another new video on the channel. Today we're talking about Boruto episode 86, I believe. And this episode, for a lot of people, I can see, not really enjoying all that much because not a lot of stuff happened in terms of action. This is an action shown in anime. You'd figure that a lot of action would be happening. But in terms of story and development and overall just pacing and writing, it's all really good, and it fits way better than the previous, last two episodes have over the course of, the last couple weeks or so. And, like I said, the writing and the pacing for this episode was actually really good, and this kind of correlates with what we have been trying to figure out and have been asking, since, for a couple episodes now, not including, the last 2 weeks, last two episodes, but finally we got a lot of stuff and a lot of answers that we've all been, wondering and what has been going on and etc. So ultimately, this whole entire arc with Mitsuki and Onoki, the Tsuchikage, it was like, all right, whose will are we talking about? Because at this point we have another, will, someone's will is, inflicting with what's going on. So Onoki's whole philosophy, I guess you can say, is, regarding his grandson who had died, and he feels responsible for the death of his grandson, Kosuchi. And, you watch the episode, and I was watching the episode, and, I understood why he ultimately decided to do what he decided to do in the first place, because if you feel responsible, you feel like you have to do something in order to prevent for something like that to ever happen again. It's understandable, and, that's just human nature, but ultimately, this episode also further proves that Onoki is a huge hypocrite, and he doesn't see the Akuta or someone like Ku and Kakuya and Sakie and all the others. He calls them fabrications, and a fabrication is something that is just straight up created and isn't real. It doesn't have, it's not real. It's fictional, right? And the way that he sees these fabrications, like Lord Ku and some of the others, and including the Akuta, he doesn't see them as having free will. He doesn't see them as, humanoid. He doesn't see them as other shinobi of our generation or the current generation of, the ninja world inside of Naruto. He doesn't see them as the same thing. But what they decided to do in the episode, and of all characters they decided to do it with, it was Boruto. Boruto is, he figures out the whole backstory of what happened and, the whole development of what was going on with Onoki and his reasoning for doing this and etc. And ultimately he decides to go ahead and ask Onoki, does he truly not believe that these, fabrications don't have a will, right? Because we know that Mitsuki has a will, and he's basically, artificially created just like the Akuta. Yet he has free will. He has a will of his own, and he's willing to do anything to be able to make sure that his will is, is successful. He's willing to do anything to make sure that his will just continues on. These other Akuta and these fabrications have the same thing, but Onoki's being a huge hypocrite because he's creating these fabrications, and he's treating them as if they don't have free will, even though they clearly do. And this further solidifies the whole meaning behind that, because these fabrications, in order for them to last longer, they have to sacrifice, a human life in terms of, obtaining their hearts in order to be able to survive it longer than they normally are supposed to. And they were about to do that in this episode, but Lord Ku, of all people, said, no, we're not doing that. We have to follow behind, our master's order, and we can't do anything else besides that. And all the others kind of just resented that. And you can clearly see in the episode that they didn't like that. They didn't like how they have to wait for Onoki's, authorization. They have to wait until Onoki says so before they actually decide to take these, shinobi's hearts from the Stone Village of all things, and use them for their own, for their own gain, their own advantage. But Onoki, this entire time, has just been speaking about, all I want is peace, and I'm not trying to take over like any of the villages. He's repeated himself time and time again that all he wants is peace, and all he wants to do is just be able to prevent something of what happened like with his grandson to never happen again. So he's creating these artificial fabrication like soldier like people to be able to fight for them, and that's his whole reasoning behind it. But Boruto in the episode tells him that what is the difference between, us shinobi and these fabrications, because they have their own free will, and so do us humans, so do the shinobi of the world, of the universe, right? So what's the difference between them? Is it that they're artificially created? Is it that they weren't born through natural means, like how Onoki was, like how Boruto was? And that's the whole like message behind it. That was like the whole like conversation of the episode. And I'm glad that the episode finally took the time to finally acknowledge that, because the entire time it just didn't seem that they were doing that, and it seemed like they just wanted to drag it on further and further. And more information has come out and said that, like, yeah, they were doing that. They were further pushing this arc to make it longer than it needed to, which is why I say episodes like 75, 84, and 85 were completely pointless, because all they did was just drag out this entire arc and give us a whole bunch of pointless, plot stuff that doesn't have any relevancy of what's going on and doesn't further solidify of the questions that we have at hand. But this episode does. It continues to give us more information, also because of the fabrications. Because the fabrications, they've been grounded up from the white Setsu, because they had actually had Onoki, and the scientist guy that Onoki has been working with has actually been using the white Setsu. And that's why like these have like the fabrications, not Lord Ku, but the other ones have white skin, and that's why they look so different from each other. They're similar. They were, grounded up from the Akuta and then made more human-like, which is then, then they're called fabrications. But that's why they have like the white skin and stuff, because their cells are generated from the white Setsu, and Lord Ku's is taken from Onoki, and which is why Onoki looks so similar to Lord Ku, and Lord Ku looks so similar to Onoki. And this further solidifies a theory that I actually haven't heard of whatsoever. I actually haven't heard of this theory, or if it's like a brand new theory, I haven't like heard of it recently. But this could further solidify a theory that some people might have, that Mitsuki might actually have the cells of either the Black Setsu, the Otsutsuki, or both of them. And, I can go into like the whole theory itself and try to explain that myself. But if that ends up being the case, it explains a lot. It explains a lot, but it also explains, also why Mitsuki looks so much like Orochimaru, not only because of like the whole like white Setsu bullshit, but because of like the whole like Orochimaru put his own cells into Mitsuki, so that's why he looks so much similar to him. But there's just a whole bunch of more information that just continues with the plot. It's relevant. It's continuing what we have been asking for. And, this episode doesn't feel like it's filler. It doesn't feel like it's trying to drag out, this arc for no reason whatsoever. It's giving us information that we all want and we need, so that we can go ahead and finally finish this arc. I think in the end, what's going to happen is that these fabrications and the Akuta, and Lord Ku specifically, of course, is going to go ahead and turn on Onoki. They're going to have like this big, battle brawl fight. And either Onoki's going to sacrifice himself, or he's just going to die of other means, or he'll survive. He might survive. It wouldn't make a difference to me whatsoever. In a way, I could explain, but, it doesn't really matter in the end for me, I guess. It doesn't really make that much of a significant difference, unless they do it in like a really good way that makes sense, or they kill him off in a really good way, and it, redeems his character for what he's been doing this entire time, like behind the scenes with, the Tsuchikage with Kurosuchi and all that. If they did it in a way that would make sense and would be good for his character, then I wouldn't mind, but either way, I don't really care too much. I feel like he should have been kind of dead a long time ago, to be honest. But the episode also further solidifies that Onoki, truly wants peace, because before his grandson had died, he just acted like, how grandfathers should for their grandchild. And he acted he just acted like a humble, old man. Even after the events of the Fourth Shinobi World War, all the villages had to use up a lot of resources and a lot of money and a lot of human life in order to be able to fight against, Obito and Madara Uchiha and all this, right? They had to use up a lot of resources, and they're still, going through like the whole development of trying to you know, gain what they lost back from the ground up, and they were still doing that, but Onoki had retired, and he just acted like how he should have been after retirement and as an old man who's now a grandfather. And now he had lost his grandchild, and he feels responsible because of what he said to him, because his grandson had actually wanted to become a Kage in the future, a Tsuchikage in the future, and he feels responsible for it. So it's all understandable. We understand why Onoki's doing what he's doing, and we understand that his heart is in a good place and he means well, but in the ways that he's doing it, it's just not being seen in a good light, because it's not a good way to do it. You're basically just creating these artificial beings to do what normal shinobi could already be doing in the first place. What you could be doing, and what you should be doing, is by training these younger generation of shinobi, of ninja, and nurture their talent and make sure that they become stronger over time. And yet you're trying to speed up the process by just creating these artificial beings, which is what you shouldn't be doing whatsoever. And by treating them as if they're not human, as if they don't have free will, you're just being a massive hypocrite, because you're only trying to protect those who do have free will, but these Akuta and these fabrications do have free will, and you're not treating them like they do have it. So, whatever. I guess that's just kind of like the whole entire of the episode. The episode ends with Kaku, I think that's how you pronounce his name, one of the fabrications, one of like the, basically the guy, one of the other guys who was like created artificially through like the lab and stuff. He shows up, and I guess him and Boruto are going to fight in the next episode. I don't really know what's going to happen, to be honest. Hopefully it's going to be an interesting fight. I don't know. It kind of seems like in the previews that this guy got his ass handed to Boruto, of all people, when it probably shouldn't be like that in the first place. But whatever, we're going to have to just wait and see. I hope the action is, at least a little bit fun, a little bit interesting to watch, but we're going to have to wait and see until next week. Anyways, that's pretty much the end of the video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to leave a like. And if you are new, subscribe for more videos just like this. I actually have another video that I want to plan out for maybe later today along with this video, or maybe tomorrow. And that's regarding Kingdom Hearts 3 leaks. And I'm not going to talk about like the leaks, regarding, what they are and what they include, but just overall, like how they came about and how like all of this is just really dumb. And I hate how it happened in the first place. But anyways, if you enjoyed, leave a like. If you are new, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a fantastic day. I'm out. Peace.